If you are calling yourself a Moor right now, currently, you are not identifying yourself as indigenous, okay, to the earth. You're not identifying as indigenous to the Americas. And currently, that people think that being a Moor is the same thing as being indigenous, and it's not, okay? And I'm gonna break down a few reasons why. So there's this idea, okay, so I'm gonna just speak on my experience, and let people know that, you know, as I stated in my previous video, we are ancient primordial beings of the earth. We are not any of these categories that we keep putting ourselves in. It's really all illusions. You know, I think I'll be making up words. Illusory. It's really all illusory, and it's not really real. You know, these categories that we're putting ourselves in. And until we start identifying ourselves as primordial, ancient beings of the earth, we will not progress in our evolution of spirituality, in our evolution of being. So, if you are currently identifying yourself as a Moor, there's nothing wrong with that. But you need to understand what you're doing when you categorize yourself or call yourself a Moor. You need to understand that this is a religious entity that you are associating yourself with. This is an energy that you are associating yourself with. And let me tell y'all something right now. When it comes to the Afro community in the Americas, people love, the world loves, and needs our energy to survive and sustain itself. Okay? So that means whatever culture we decide to subscribe to, whatever energy that we decide to subscribe to, you better believe that these energies need and want us to subscribe to their philosophies and their ways of existing, for them to thrive. Without our energy, it's never going to thrive. It's never going to live past a certain, or it's gonna dwindle at some point, because the reality is we are the generators of this entire existence. And that's another video talking about generators and manifestors and things like that. But we generate the energy of this entire realm. So once you understand that, then you will begin to understand that these certain beings, like the Moors, like Africa, and pretty much a lot of stuff associated with Africa, even Christianity, even all these different things, they want us to subscribe to it so that we can literally feed it so it can stay alive. So once we completely cut ourselves off, okay, from these different dichotomies of existence, from these different things that are stirring us away from the source and origin of who we truly are, then you'll start to see some changes. And so I'm going to start off by saying that the Moors and the Moorish institution is not an indigenous institution. And right now, a lot of people are gaining their sovereignty through the Moorish institution, and the Moorish knowledge, the things that they have implemented in the past and that they are utilizing in this current day and age, is actually helping a lot of people in the indigenous community, in the primordial bloodlines. It's actually helping a lot of us. And so, as I said in my previous video, we are ancient primordial beings, don't knock any of these things, but don't get attached to it either, because these things are stepping stools. Okay, they're stepping stools for us to get to the truth. Okay, our discovery, our revelation of who it is and where it is we really are, where it is we really come from. Okay, like I said in my previous video, we are gaining back memory that was wiped out from our bloodline. Literally gaining back memories that were wiped out from our bloodline, that other beings have adopted and taken on our little pieces and facets of our culture. Okay, and you can see this in indigenous communities all over the world. But when you get to America, when you get to the Americas, the indigenous people of America is like no recollection or memory, you know. But we're getting it back. We're getting it back. It's coming back to us. So let's just start off with clearing that if you are calling yourself a Moor, you are not indigenous. You are not fully proclaiming your indigenous heritage, your primordial self, because the Moors are not indigenous to the earth. The Moors come from or were derived in the Aryan landmass called Africa. So I know a lot of people still gravitate towards, you know, Africa being the motherland, but I need you to also understand that the earth is our motherland. The earth is our motherland. So by you always tracing everything back to Africa, you're limiting yourself. That's cool if you do that, but you're limiting yourself. You're limiting who you are in an expansive sense, and you're limiting your power and potential. So let's get that clear right now. The earth is our motherland, not Africa. And those scientists and archaeologists have done their due diligence in convincing everyone that we all spawned from one black woman in Africa. That is not the truth. Okay, and where they're really getting this story from is when humans, or I would say other beings, began to be created and multiply and evolve on this planet. That started in that area or that region, but what they do is they break us all up into they don't break us all up. They put us all into this one bowl, all right, of human beings, but we're not all human beings, and so that'll be something I'll get into in another video. But when we're talking about the primordial being is indigenous to this entire earth. And so right from jump, the Moors originated on the west coast of Africa. They were created amongst the other humans that were created in Africa, okay, that were multiplied in Africa by the beings and overlords that were over these areas. Okay, primordial beings, primordial beings were everywhere, but you can find a bulk of us in the Americas, North America, Central America, South America. You can find a bulk of us, but we were everywhere. Okay, so the Moors, they originated in West Africa, and from West Africa, the Moors were classified as the rebel humans. Okay, so there were humans in all of these different areas of the world, not really in America. Okay, not really so much in the Americas. Okay, specifically the United States, what's now called the United States. Okay, this was a sacred area. This was a sacred land. It still is. But humans running around everywhere? Nope. It was primordial beings, primordial beings, primordial beings. And so what happened was when the humans got created in West Africa and Africa, all over Africa, all over Asia, all over these places where people just, everybody looking alike, everybody look alike, like everybody look alike. You know, you get over here and all of a sudden black people look different. Like we all look different. Like you look like you some Asian and you look like you some, like we all look different. That's because our genetic pool literally sustains every other race of being on this planet, because our genetics are that complex and that rich. Okay, it's all rich. It's that rich. So you have all these humans in Africa, all these other regions. You got all these humans. The Moors were a part of the human community. Okay, the Moors are not primordial indigenous people. They are part of the human community, which, as I said before, was a black community. Majority of the humans that were created were black humans, okay? Melanated, you know, black label, but melanated. Almost everybody on the planet was melanated, okay? But that don't mean that we was all related. All skin folk and kinfolk, as we've heard so often. So that applies in this situation as well. So the Moors were a part of the human community. The human community were and is ruled by beings, so like overlords, celestial beings, okay? Celestial overlords who essentially created them using primordial blood and celestial blood and replicating them into what we now know as the humanoid. Okay, so let's get that straight. Moors are part of the human community, not the primordial bloodline. The Moors originated in West Africa because they were unique humanoids. Okay, they possessed what we call the primordial knot. And the primordial knot is a part of the brain that's located right here at the base of the spine, where your head protrudes a bit, and it's like right in between, like it's like makes kind of like a Y, and then you can feel the knot right there in the back of your head. So that's a primordial knot, and people of primordial lineages have this primordial knot, okay? And it's a part of the brain that makes you in tune with spirit. It's the part of the brain that makes you, I was about to say disobedient, but yeah, it makes you, this is the part of the brain that would make you, you can never be a slave with this part of your brain activated, okay? You can never be a slave, ever. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to be able to do it. Your spirit won't allow you to do it. And so this is the part of the brain that makes us so unique, right? Where we have our own mind, we have our own knowing, and we're in tune with spirit. Like we don't take no crap. Like that's that knot. Okay, there's a lot more about that knot, which again I'll get into in another video, but this is what differentiated the Moors from the rest of the humans. Okay, they had this knot, and over time the Moors got together and they I would say ostracized themselves from the rest of the humans, and they were supremely intelligent, which they got from, you know, the primordial the primordial energy of the primordial knot. They were supremely intelligent. They broke away from the celestial overlords. They broke away from the people who created them, I would say. And so what they did from there, from West Africa, is they went up into Northern Europe and, Middle East and all these areas. They went up and they started to create civilizations. They started to create and establish hierarchies of Moors, okay, of the Moorishness. So once the Moors had established themselves and disassociated themselves with the gods, now this is where the Caucasian comes in. Okay, so the Caucasian is not of human descendancy. The Caucasian is of its own origin in and of itself. Okay, and they were the last beings to arrive here onto the planet Earth. Caucasoids, aka Aryans, the Aryans, they were the last to arrive here, and these beings came from a dying planet. Okay, their planet was dying, and they also came with their dinosaurs. Okay, they came with this is why, white people love dinosaurs so much, because that's their friends. Like the dinosaurs was a part of them when they got here. So the dinosaurs, when they got here, couldn't survive too long because this atmosphere this wasn't their place of reign. Okay, they couldn't live here very long. So the dinosaurs died off. But when they died, their fossils remained. Why did their fossils remain? Because they're not of the earth. Anything that's of the earth is going to go back into the earth, and the cycle is going to be repeated. If there are any bones within the earth that didn't go back to the earth, and you can still find the bones, that means that this is not originally from this place. This is from somewhere else. This is foreign to the earth. That's why the earth didn't take it in and bring it into its own cycle of, death, rebirth, and, the cycle of life. So anything that dies in the earth and doesn't, go back to the earth is not of the earth. So anyway, the Aryans got here, and the Moors decided to take in, or I would say, help the Aryans understand how to live here on this planet, understand how to thrive here on this planet. The Aryans didn't understand how to do that, when they got here. So the Moors, essentially, this is where the idea of the Moors bringing civilization to white people comes in, because the Moors were in Europe. They were in all of these areas, and when the Aryans got here, which was in the area of Europe and in these different areas, Middle East and things like that, when they got here, the Moors decided to teach them how to live here. And so this is when the Moors ruled over the white people. And so the Moors were not civilized people. They were intelligent, but they were still of human descendancy. And so humans specifically need an overlord. Put it like that. They need an overseer, because without rule, regulation, laws, things like that, they will do whatever. Okay, heinous things. No regard for life. There's no regard for life. So I'm gonna just tell you right now, everything that white people that we've seen over the past recent 100 years that they've done, They learned from somewhere, okay? And that is the Moors. The Moors taught them how to be slave traders. The Moors taught them how to treat slaves. The Moors taught them how to sell people and whip people. And the Moors taught white people everything they know about cruelty. Okay? Okay? And that's just what it is. So, now that you understand where this whole idea of white people getting civilized by Moors comes from, this is where it comes from, okay? The Aryans got here to planet Earth. The Moors were in Europe. They were in the Middle East. They had disregarded themselves from the gods, the overlords who created the humans. And so now, they're ruling over the Aryans. And they're selling they're selling the women. They selling the women to the Middle East. They selling the women to Asia. They selling the women. They were slave trading. White women was getting slave traded like crazy. Okay, they were slaves to the Moors. And so time passed. The Moors got a little too comfortable with these Aryans. Okay, they got a little too comfortable, and they started to give them some power. They started to give them some power, and eventually what ends up happening is, as we know, the Aryans turn the tables on the Moors and end up deceiving them, which they've done pretty much to every other race on the planet. So Moors gave them the power once they got here. I mean, they didn't give them the power, but the Moors gave them some power, and then the Aryans were like, look, we taking this power, and we taking everything you taught us about thieving, killing, slaving, and we about to take over the world. You think we about to take over the world? Y'all just wanted to stay in Europe and the Middle East, and we about to take over the world. So that's when the Moors and the Aryans started to travel all over, okay, all over the place, and do their dirt, and do their dirty. So they came to the Americas, and when they got to the Americas, the Moors had things established already. Okay, they had things established. This is why today there's so many laws and jurisdictions and things like that are established within the Moorish name, within the Moorish energy. So long story short, Moor is not an indigenous term. There are a lot of people getting their genealogy done, putting a Moorish stamp on their indigenous tribe that they've been traced back to through their family line. Okay, like they're literally taking indigenous tribes and putting a Moorish stamp on top of the tribe because it grants them more power within the system when they do that, when they claim more and indigenous, when they claim more and coming from such and such tribe. Okay, when you get the genealogy papers, you get a stamp, because I got mine, but I told them to take that Moorish stamp off. Okay, I got my indigenous paperwork and I got my indigenous genealogy done, but I told them to take that Moorish stuff off. You will get resistance whenever you try to do stuff like that, especially when you're working with anybody in the Moorish community. They're going to be like, well, just to let you know, you're not going to have as much power in the system when you don't classify as Moor, when you only classify as indigenous and you don't classify as Moor. And that's when you realize, like, there's more going on here that's not being presented, that's not being really spoken on, and that a lot of people who are in that community don't really know or care about, because they're only interested in the power. They're only interested in the power. So they'd be like, oh, black people who had power, let me get some of that. Let me hop on that train. Let me hop on that, you know, Moorish train. But y'all need to realize that there were pacts created between the Moors and the Aryans in America, all over the place, everywhere. There were pacts created, just like there was a pact created between a lot of other beings and the Aryans. And that's why, you know, present day, we're looking around at all these other races like there's some, like they got a leg up on us, or they're smarter than us because they're more together, because they're more unified, when in reality is all of them got some type of pact going with the Aryans. And we the only ones who got the very I wouldn't even say got the short end of the stick, but perceived to have the short end of the stick, because we don't have no pact with them, you know. So that's all I had to say for now. You guys let me know what you think about that in the comments. Any questions, any whatever, you know, pass through your mind. And I'll see you in the next video. Make sure you like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. This was a side mistake.